The summer air in Asheville was thick with humidity as we pulled into the hotel parking lot, the vibrant colors of the surrounding mountains framing our arrival. I had hoped this family trip would reignite the spark in my marriage, a chance for my husband, Tom, and me to reconnect. After years of routine and distance, I felt like a ghost in my own life, drifting through days without being seen or appreciated. As we entered the hotel lobby, the scent of fresh coffee mingled with the faint notes of lavender from nearby shops. The bustling atmosphere was a stark contrast to the quiet loneliness I had grown accustomed to at home. Our rooms were supposed to be separate, but a mix-up left Tom and me sharing one while my stepson Alex was put in an adjacent room. I tried not to think too much about it, after all, it was just for a few nights. "Let's grab some coffee before heading to Biltmore," Tom suggested, his eyes scanning the lobby for a cafe. I nodded, forcing a smile. My heart sank as I caught a glimpse of Alex entering through the side door, his youthful energy radiating as he waved at us. He had grown up so fast, part of me still saw him as the shy boy I had met years ago. The three of us settled at a small table near the window. As Tom chatted about our plans for the estate tour, I couldn't shake off the feeling that he wasn't really present with us. His words felt rehearsed, like lines delivered on cue rather than genuine conversation. Meanwhile, Alex leaned in closer to me during our discussions about art and history. His attention felt warm and inviting against my husband's distant demeanor. Later that afternoon at Biltmore Estate, surrounded by lush gardens and opulent interiors, I found myself wandering away from Tom and Alex. My heart raced with an unfamiliar thrill as I explored on my own. The grandeur of the estate mirrored what I once dreamed my life would be, a life filled with love and excitement. I paused by a fountain, watching water dance under sunlight when Alex caught up with me. "Hey," he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "Hey," I replied, surprised by how quickly my pulse quickened at his presence. "Want to check out the gardens together?" His invitation felt innocent enough but carried an undertone that made my stomach flutter. We walked side by side through blooming rose bushes and manicured hedges. The air smelled sweet with floral notes that reminded me of better times, before marriage became routine and predictable. As we strolled along paths lined with vibrant flowers, Alex shared stories about school and friends. It was refreshing to hear someone speak with such enthusiasm. "Do you ever feel invisible?" he asked suddenly, glancing sideways at me. His question struck deep within me. "Sometimes," I admitted quietly. "It can be hard." "I get that," he said thoughtfully. "Sometimes it feels like no one really sees you." We shared a moment of silence then. It felt charged yet comforting amidst all the chaos around us. The connection between us deepened unexpectedly as we spoke more openly about our lives, his youthful dreams clashing against my unfulfilled ones. That evening back at the hotel room after dinner, a meal filled with forced laughter and polite conversations, I sat on one bed while Tom flipped through channels on TV without really watching anything. It was then that Alex knocked softly on our door. "Mind if I come in?" he asked hesitantly. Tom looked up briefly before nodding distractedly as he continued flipping channels. I motioned for Alex to enter while my heart raced again at this unplanned moment alone together. "Sorry if this is weird," he said once inside, shifting nervously from foot to foot. "It's fine," I replied too quickly but couldn't help smiling at him. There was something innocent yet electric in his presence that drew me closer. We talked quietly about everything, the trip so far and what we wanted from life, and slowly began inching toward each other on the bed until our knees touched lightly beneath soft sheets. It felt so wrong yet exhilarating. Every part of me screamed caution while another part craved this connection desperately. In that moment where time stood still amidst uncertainty and longing for more than just companionship, I heard Tom's voice echoing from outside our door, "I'll be back soon." My stomach dropped as reality crashed down around us like waves against rocks. We were treading dangerous waters without even realizing it fully yet. Before long, fueled by emotions swirling within both of us, we found ourselves leaning closer together until lips almost brushed against each other when suddenly we heard footsteps approaching again outside our door. My heart raced wildly as panic set in. What would happen if Tom walked in? Would he see what was unfolding between us? Would everything change forever? As the footsteps faded, the reality of what had just happened settled over me like a heavy blanket. Alex and I pulled apart, both of us breathless and wide-eyed, the gravity of our actions crashing down. The thrill of the moment was quickly overshadowed by the fear of being caught. I could almost hear my heart pounding in my ears as I glanced toward the door, half expecting Tom to burst through at any moment. "Grace, we can't," Alex whispered, his voice barely above a breath. But there was an undeniable spark in his eyes that suggested he didn't want to pull away either. I nodded slowly, my mind racing. What did this mean for us? For my marriage? A part of me wanted to dismiss it all as a fleeting moment of weakness, yet another reminder of how invisible I felt next to Tom. But another part craved more connection, more understanding. We sat in silence for a moment, both lost in our thoughts. The air between us crackled with unspoken words and emotions that were too complicated to articulate. I could see Alex wrestling with his own feelings, his brow furrowed in contemplation. "Maybe we should talk," he suggested cautiously. I took a deep breath, weighing my options. "Yeah, maybe we should." We moved to the small seating area in our hotel room, where sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. It felt surreal to be sitting here with him, a young man who had become so much more than just my stepson during this trip. "Do you think your dad suspects anything?" he asked after a moment. I shook my head slowly. "He's been so caught up with work lately. I doubt he even notices how distant we've become." Alex leaned forward slightly, his expression serious. "And what about you? How do you feel about all this?" The question hung heavily between us. I hesitated but then spoke from a place of honesty that had been buried for far too long. "I feel lonely." My voice trembled slightly as I admitted it out loud. Alex's gaze softened as he listened intently. "I get that. You're not alone in feeling that way." A wave of relief washed over me. It was comforting to know that someone understood my struggles. We shared a bond forged through mutual feelings of neglect and isolation, two people lost in their own worlds yet somehow finding solace in each other's presence. "I never meant for this to happen," I continued quietly, searching for clarity amid the chaos swirling inside me. "Neither did I," Alex replied earnestly. "But there's something between us, something real." As he spoke those words, I felt an undeniable pull toward him again, a longing that was difficult to resist despite everything at stake. We kissed, I whispered before I could stop myself, recalling the electric moment we had just shared moments ago. His eyes widened slightly at my admission, but instead of pulling away or expressing regret, he leaned closer again as if drawn by an invisible force. "What does this mean for us?" he asked softly. "I don't know," I admitted honestly, feeling vulnerable yet exhilarated by our connection. We spent the next hour talking about everything and nothing, our hopes and dreams intermingled with fears and uncertainties about what lay ahead after this trip ended. Each word exchange deepened our bond further while simultaneously complicating everything else around us. As afternoon turned into evening outside our window, the sun dipping low on the horizon, I couldn't help but steal glances at Alex when he thought I wasn't looking. His youthful enthusiasm contrasted sharply with my own weariness from years spent feeling unnoticed by Tom. When dinner time rolled around, we reluctantly decided it was time to rejoin the family downstairs despite not wanting to break away from our private world together just yet. The dining area buzzed with laughter and conversation as we took our seats at the long table filled with family members enjoying their meals, Tom animatedly discussing some work-related topic while Alex and I exchanged furtive glances across plates piled high with food. Throughout dinner, every laugh felt like an echo against my heart, a reminder of how distant things had become between Tom and me over time while simultaneously highlighting how close Alex and I had grown during this trip. After dessert was served, a rich chocolate cake, I noticed Tom leaning back in his chair with an expression that suggested contentment mingled with curiosity as he observed both me and Alex chatting animatedly together across from him. "Looks like you two are getting along well," he remarked casually but pointedly enough for both of us to catch it amidst idle chatter around us. "Yeah. Just sharing stories," Alex replied quickly before turning back toward me with a playful grin on his face, one that made my stomach flutter unexpectedly once again despite knowing better than to entertain such thoughts openly right now. Later that night, after everyone retired for bed, Tom heading off first while Alex lingered behind, I found myself waiting nervously by our shared room door until finally hearing soft footsteps approaching from down the hallway once more. When Alex stepped inside quietly without making a sound, it felt like stepping into another world entirely, one where nothing else mattered except him standing before me looking uncertain yet hopeful all at once under dim light filtering through curtains drawn tight against prying eyes outside beyond them. "What if someone sees us?" I whispered urgently, though part of me desperately wished for nothing more than to close that distance between us again without hesitation this time around, despite knowing full well what risks lay ahead if caught. "We won't let them," he replied confidently before taking another step closer until warmth radiated off him, enveloping me completely within arm's reach once again. In moments like these, the weight pressing down upon shoulders became lighter somehow, allowing hope flicker brightly amidst uncertainty surrounding lives lived apart until now. Yet still lingering doubts danced on edges surrounding hearts yearning deeply beneath surface tension threatening everything built thus far. What would happen when morning came? Would any semblance remain intact after confronting reality once again? With those questions swirling around endlessly, it became clear, nothing would ever be quite the same again after tonight. The warmth of the evening lingered in the air, wrapping around us like a soft blanket. In that moment, I felt an overwhelming sense of connection with Alex. The world outside faded away, leaving only the two of us in our shared bubble of vulnerability. Our lips met again, a gentle exploration of uncharted territory. It was as if time had stopped, and nothing else mattered but this fleeting intimacy. But reality was never far behind. I could hear the distant laughter of my husband and his son echoing through the hotel corridors, a stark reminder of our complicated family dynamics. The weight of what we were doing pressed heavily on my chest. I glanced at Alex, who seemed blissfully unaware of the storm brewing just beyond our room. There was a certain innocence in his expression that made my heart ache. He was still so young, caught between childhood and adulthood. "Grace," he whispered, breaking the silence that enveloped us. "What are we doing?" His question hung in the air, heavy with implications. I wanted to tell him that I didn't know, that I was just as lost as he was, but instead, I smiled softly. "I think we're finding something we didn't know we needed." He nodded slowly, but uncertainty clouded his eyes. It was clear he felt the gravity of our situation more than he let on. We both knew that this connection would not go unnoticed forever. It was only a matter of time before someone discovered our secret. As if on cue, my phone buzzed from the bedside table, a message from my husband. "Change of plans. Heading home early." My heart dropped at those words. Panic surged through me as I processed what this meant for us. "What is it?" Alex asked, his brow furrowing with concern. I held up my phone to show him the text. His face paled as he read it, and for a moment, we were both frozen in disbelief. "Do you think he suspects anything?" Alex asked quietly. "I don't know," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. "But if he walks in on us?" The thought sent chills down my spine. My mind raced through possible scenarios, each one more disastrous than the last. Would he understand? Would he be angry? Or worse yet, would this destroy everything? We need to be careful, Alex said, his voice barely above a whisper. I nodded but felt an unexpected pang of longing for this moment to last just a little longer before reality crashed back in on us like an unwelcome tide. As we sat there in silence, my thoughts drifted back to how different things had been when we first arrived in Asheville, how hopeful I had been about this family trip and rekindling my marriage with Mark. But now? Now everything felt tainted by secrets and unspoken desires. I glanced out the window at the darkening sky over Asheville's skyline, a city full of promise that now seemed so far away from where we stood at this moment. Let's go for a walk, Alex suggested suddenly, breaking into my thoughts. Now? I hesitated. There was no telling when Mark would arrive back home or how much time we had left together before everything changed again. Yeah, he insisted with a hint of urgency in his voice. We can talk more freely outside. I considered it for a moment. Perhaps some fresh air would help clear our minds and give us both perspective on what lay ahead. Okay, I agreed finally, pushing myself off the bed and smoothing out my clothes as if preparing for some grand event rather than an escape into uncertainty. We slipped out into the hallway cautiously, hearts racing with every step we took away from our shared sanctuary, the room where everything had shifted between us irrevocably. The cool night air greeted us as we stepped outside into Asheville's vibrant streets illuminated by street lamps casting warm pools of light onto cobblestone paths lined with quaint shops and cafes still open late into the evening hours. Alex led me toward a nearby park where families often gathered during warmer months. It felt oddly comforting amidst all this chaos, a place where laughter echoed through trees that swayed gently under starlit skies above us. Once inside its embrace, we found ourselves sitting on a bench beneath an old oak tree whose branches spread wide like arms welcoming us into its fold, a sanctuary amidst turmoil. What do you want from all this? Alex asked suddenly after several moments passed in contemplative silence between us, his voice barely audible against rustling leaves overhead filled with whispers carried by night winds swirling around us both like secrets waiting patiently to be uncovered further still. I wish I knew, I admitted softly while staring ahead at nothing in particular yet everything all at once, the blurred lines between desire and responsibility merging until they became indistinguishable from one another entirely. He turned to face me fully now, his youthful features illuminated by moonlight casting shadows across his face while revealing depths hidden beneath surface-level charm often mistaken for naivety alone. I don't want to hurt anyone, he confessed quietly after several beats passed, the weight behind those words echoing louder than any sound surrounding us ever could. I don't either, I replied honestly while feeling tears prick behind closed eyelids threatening release if not contained properly within confines built up over years spent navigating complexities woven throughout relationships forged through love yet strained by distance growing larger each passing day without resolution sought. But what about us? He pressed gently, his gaze unwavering as though searching desperately for answers hidden deep within those layers obscured by fear alone. Before I could respond adequately, a noise broke through our intimate exchange. Footsteps approaching rapidly down pathways leading toward where we sat together side by side lost within tangled webs spun intricately binding hearts entwined so tightly they threatened suffocation should they remain trapped any longer than necessary. My stomach dropped instinctively alerting me danger lurked nearby waiting patiently just beyond reach even now threatening everything fragile built upon foundations created during stolen moments shared between two souls yearning desperately find solace amidst chaos, surrounding them both relentlessly. We need to go. Panic surged through me like wildfire igniting every nerve-ending sparking urgency within veins coursing hotly urging flight over confrontation any day given choice presented itself clearly before them both once more. Alex nodded quickly rising alongside me readying himself without hesitation knowing instinctively danger loomed closer than ever before looming overhead casting shadows darker than night itself. And then, just as swiftly as realization dawned upon us, a figure emerged from darkness. Mark stepping forward, seemingly oblivious yet somehow aware enough catch glimpse movement stirring within, shadows cast behind trees sheltering secrets long kept hidden away until now. Our eyes locked briefly across distance, separating worlds colliding, unexpectedly crashing together, leaving remnants scattered around, ground beneath feet trembling slightly, uncertain path ahead, uncertain future looming large overhead, threatening everything once held dear, now precariously balanced upon precipice, teetering dangerously close edge, ready plunge headfirst into unknown depths, awaiting discovery, waiting patiently long enough, reveal truths buried deep below surface, waiting patiently. Emerge finally, liberated from constraints holding them captive far too long already. The air was thick with unspoken words as Alex and I sat on the edge of the bed, the reality of our actions pressing heavily upon us. We spent the night together, wrapped in a cocoon of warmth that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. The sun's first light filtered through the curtains, casting soft shadows across the room, reminding me of the world outside, the one I had momentarily escaped. "What do we do now?" Alex asked, his voice barely above a whisper. There was an earnestness in his eyes that made my heart race. This was no longer just a fleeting moment, it felt like a turning point. "I don't know," I replied, my voice trembling slightly. The weight of what we had done settled in my chest like a stone. "I love my husband, but..." My words trailed off as I searched for clarity amidst the confusion swirling in my mind. "We can't keep pretending," he said, running a hand through his tousled hair. "Every time we're together, it feels like we're lying to everyone else." His honesty struck me deeply. It was true, every shared glance and secret touch had become a thread woven into our lives, binding us closer yet threatening to unravel everything. As if sensing the tension between us, Alex shifted uncomfortably. "What if your husband finds out?" The question hung in the air like an ominous cloud. I could feel my heart quicken at the thought. "Mark is coming back early," I said quietly, recalling the text that had disrupted our fragile peace last night. "He's planned something special for us." The irony stung. My husband's eagerness to reconnect stood in stark contrast to my growing distance from him. "What kind of special?" Alex asked, his brow furrowing with concern. "I don't know," I admitted, trying to mask the guilt creeping into my voice. "But he's been planning this trip for months." The thought of Mark's excitement made me feel even more trapped. He deserved better than this tangled web of emotions I had woven with Alex. Yet here we were, entangled in something that felt both beautiful and wrong. "We have to talk about what this means," Alex urged gently. "If you want to keep seeing each other." I interrupted him before he could finish his sentence. "I need time to think." The truth was that every moment spent with him made me question everything about my life, the love I had for Mark and the loneliness that gnawed at me day by day. Just then, I heard footsteps approaching outside our door, a reminder that our bubble would soon burst. Panic surged within me as I glanced at Alex. He mirrored my fear. "Hide," I whispered urgently, motioning toward the closet just as Mark's key turned in the lock. Alex slipped inside without hesitation, leaving me alone with my racing thoughts and pounding heart. The door creaked open slowly as Mark stepped into the room, his cheerful demeanor contrasting sharply with the chaos inside me. "Good morning," he beamed, completely unaware of how close we had come to crossing an irreversible line. He walked over to me and wrapped his arms around me tightly. "I missed you," he murmured against my hair. I forced a smile, feeling hollow beneath his affection. "I missed you too." "Guess what?" he said excitedly as he pulled away slightly to look at me more closely. "I've arranged a surprise breakfast for us downstairs." "Breakfast?" My voice was strained. All I could think about was how much time we had before everything changed again. "Yes. Just you and me," he continued enthusiastically. "I figured we could use some quality time together." His eyes sparkled with anticipation as if he were unveiling a grand plan meant to rekindle our connection. That sounds nice, I replied cautiously, searching for any sign of deception behind his warm smile but finding none. Great. Let's get ready. He stepped back toward the door but paused briefly before leaving. You look beautiful this morning. Thanks, I managed to say as he exited the room. Once alone again, adrenaline surged through my veins as reality began crashing down around me like waves against rocks on a stormy shore. What would happen when Mark found out? Would it destroy everything? Alex emerged from hiding cautiously after Mark left, his expression unreadable yet charged with tension from our close call. What did he say? Alex asked softly as if afraid to break whatever fragile peace lingered between us now. He has plans for us, I replied bitterly while pacing around the room like a trapped animal searching for an escape route from its cage, each step echoing louder than before against wooden floors beneath feet burdened by choices made too quickly without consideration for consequences looming ahead just beyond horizon waiting patiently under bright blue skies overhead unrelenting despite turmoil, brewing beneath surface underneath calm exterior masking chaos hidden away from prying eyes watching. Closely waiting patiently hoping for glimpse into secrets held tightly locked away deep within hearts yearning desperately break free finally liberated from constraints holding them captive far too long already. Alex stepped closer until only inches separated us. An electric charge hung between us thickening air surrounding both bodies caught up within whirlwind spiraling downward fast approaching inevitable conclusion lurking just outside waiting patiently poised strike when least expected catching unaware leaving nothing but silence behind aftermath ringing loudly still echoing long after final curtain falls leaving shadows dancing around edges fading slowly into darkness creeping ever closer. Threatening engulf everything whole consuming all light shining brightly illuminating paths once traveled now obscured by uncertainty looming large overhead casting doubts everywhere blurring lines once drawn clearly separating right wrong leaving only confusion lingering. Behind haunting memories sweet bittersweet moments shared together forever etched minds never forgotten always cherished even amidst turmoil raging outside walls built strong enough withstand storms battering relentlessly. Against them threatening shake foundations built upon trust broken shattered pieces scattered ground beneath feet trembling uncertain path ahead uncertain future looming large overhead threatening everything once held dear now precariously balanced upon precipice teetering. Dangerously close edge ready plunge headfirst into unknown depths awaiting discovery waiting patiently long enough revealed truths buried deep below surface waiting patiently emerge finally liberated from constraints holding them captive far too long already. What do you want? Alex asked suddenly breaking silence enveloping room thick heavy suffocating atmosphere pressing down hard upon shoulders weighed down by choices made hastily without thought consideration given consequences looming ever closer threatening unravel everything held dear now teetering precariously on brink collapse waiting breathlessly anticipation hanging suspended air between two souls caught up whirlwind emotions swirling around drowning out reason logic clarity vision obscured completely lost sight direction purpose lost wandering aimlessly searching desperately answers hidden somewhere deep within hearts yearning desperately break free finally liberated constraints holding them captive far too long already. I don't know. Came out barely above whisper lost amidst chaos swirling around drowning out reason logic clarity vision obscured completely lost sight direction purpose lost wandering aimlessly searching desperately answers hidden somewhere deep within hearts yearning desperately break free finally liberated constraints holding them captive far too long already. Grace stood in the dimly lit room, the air thick with unspoken words. The weight of guilt pressed against her chest, making it difficult to breathe. She glanced at Alex, who was sitting on the edge of the bed, his expression a mix of concern and longing. The thrill of their secret affair had morphed into something more complicated, entangled with feelings she couldn't quite articulate. I just don't know how to keep doing this, she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. The enormity of their situation loomed over them like a dark cloud, threatening to burst at any moment. Alex shifted closer, his eyes searching hers for reassurance. We can figure it out together, he said softly. But even as he spoke, Grace felt a flicker of doubt. Could they really navigate this tangled web they had woven? The family dinner loomed ahead, a gathering that should have felt joyful but now felt like an impending storm. Grace's husband had been in high spirits lately, laughing and joking with Alex as if nothing were amiss. Yet beneath that surface lay an undercurrent of tension that Grace couldn't ignore. She had witnessed moments between them that stirred jealousy within her, a shared glance here, a laugh there, reminders of the bond she felt slipping away. "Let's just get through dinner," Grace suggested, attempting to mask her turmoil with a forced smile. "We'll talk later." As they prepared for dinner, Grace caught sight of herself in the mirror, her hair slightly disheveled and her makeup hastily applied. She looked older than her years, the lines around her eyes deepened by worry and regret. A fleeting thought crossed her mind, was this what she wanted? To be forever caught between two worlds? Dinner unfolded in the dining room of the Biltmore estate, its grandeur overshadowed by Grace's internal struggle. The table was set beautifully, adorned with flickering candles and fresh flowers from the estate gardens. Laughter echoed around her as her husband regaled everyone with stories from his youth. Alex chimed in occasionally, earning chuckles from family members. But all Grace could focus on was the space between them, the invisible wall growing taller with each passing moment. She tried to engage in conversation but found herself retreating into silence more often than not. "Grace? You all right?" Her husband's voice cut through her thoughts like a knife. "Yes," she replied quickly, forcing herself to smile again. "Just thinking." "About what?" he pressed gently. "Just about how beautiful this place is," she deflected awkwardly. He smiled back but didn't press further. Instead, he turned his attention back to Alex, who was animatedly discussing plans for his next semester at college, a topic that seemed to bring him joy and excitement. As dinner progressed, Grace noticed Alex stealing glances at her when he thought no one was looking. Each look sent shivers down her spine, a mix of desire and fear intertwining within her heart. The thrill of their secret felt intoxicating yet suffocating all at once. Halfway through dessert, a rich chocolate torte, Grace felt an overwhelming wave of emotion wash over her as she watched Alex share an inside joke with her husband across the table. They were laughing together like old friends. It struck a chord deep within Grace that reverberated painfully through her chest. The laughter faded into murmurs as dessert plates were cleared away and coffee was served. As conversations shifted among family members discussing plans for tomorrow's activities around Asheville's vibrant arts scene, Grace found herself lost in thought again. "What about you two?" Her sister-in-law's voice broke through the haze surrounding Grace's mind like sunlight piercing through clouds. "What do you mean?" Grace asked absent-mindedly while stirring sugar into her coffee. "You both seem awfully quiet tonight," she noted playfully but with an edge of curiosity that made Grace's heart race uncomfortably. "Oh, you know us," Alex interjected smoothly before she could respond further. "We're just enjoying our time here." His words hung in the air laden with unspoken meanings, an acknowledgement of their shared secret without explicitly saying it aloud. As dinner concluded and everyone began drifting toward various corners of the estate for after-dinner drinks or walks outside among lush gardens illuminated by moonlight, tension hung palpably around Grace like a heavy cloak suffocating any semblance of clarity or resolve she hoped to find tonight. "I need some air," she announced abruptly before anyone could react further, her voice shaky yet firm enough to carry conviction behind it as she pushed away from the table feeling suffocated by everything, the laughter echoing behind fading into silence once more leaving only uncertainty lingering ahead. Outside on the terrace overlooking sprawling gardens bathed in soft moonlight, cool night air brushed against her skin soothingly while chaos raged within stillness wrapping itself tightly around heart filled too full yet empty all at once yearning desperately for answers hidden somewhere deeper than surface-level conversations could ever reach. "Grace?" She turned sharply at hearing Alex's voice behind her, his silhouette framed against dim light spilling from inside, creating an ethereal glow around him, making everything feel surreal, almost dreamlike, yet painfully real too. "What are we doing?" she blurted out before thinking, words spilling forth like water bursting through cracks, unable to contain anymore. "We're living," he replied simply, stepping closer until mere inches separated them, neither wanting nor able to break that fragile barrier holding them apart, even amidst all uncertainty swirling around them both. "But what happens when we go home?" Her voice trembled slightly, laced thickly with vulnerability, exposed raw beneath layers built up over years spent feeling invisible, trapped inside confines created by expectations placed upon them. Alex hesitated briefly before responding, "Then we figure it out, together." But even as he spoke, those words resonated deeply within, stirring hope alongside fear, battling fiercely inside, leaving Grace feeling torn between two worlds, one filled warmth, connection, while other remained cold, distant shadow looming ever closer, threatening engulf everything if not careful. Suddenly footsteps echoed behind them, drawing closer, breaking spellbinding moment shared between two souls caught up, whirlwind emotions swirling around, drowning out reason, logic, clarity, vision obscured, completely lost sight, direction, purpose lost, wandering aimlessly, searching desperately, answers hidden somewhere deep within, hearts yearning desperately, break free, finally liberated, constraints holding them captive far too long already. Grace turned instinctively towards sound, only to find herself locking eyes momentarily with husband standing there, brows furrowed, confusion etched across face, realization dawning slowly upon him while fear gripped tightly around, heart squeezing tighter than ever before. The silence in the room was deafening, punctuated only by the sound of Grace's heart pounding in her chest. The expression on her husband's face shifted from confusion to disbelief, as if he were trying to process the scene before him. Alex stood frozen beside her, a mixture of shock and fear etched across his youthful features. Grace's mind raced, scrambling for words that wouldn't come. "Tom," she managed to utter, her voice barely above a whisper. It felt surreal to say his name in this context, standing so close to Alex, who had been nothing but a source of comfort and understanding during their time together. "What is going on here?" Tom's voice broke through the tension like glass shattering. His tone was low but filled with an intensity that sent a chill down Grace's spine. He stepped further into the room, eyes darting between them as if trying to piece together a puzzle that had suddenly fallen apart. "It's not what it looks like," Grace said instinctively, though deep down she knew that was a lie. The weight of her actions pressed heavily against her chest, suffocating any remnants of hope for a simple explanation. "Then what is it?" Tom demanded, crossing his arms defensively. "Because it looks like you two are hiding something." Grace felt Alex shift beside her, his presence both reassuring and terrifying at that moment. She could sense his uncertainty. They were both standing on the precipice of something monumental. "We've been spending time together," she admitted slowly, searching for the right words to convey the complexity of their relationship without revealing everything. "Spending time?" Tom echoed incredulously. "Is that what you call it? Because I thought I raised you better than this." The sting of his words cut deeper than she expected. It wasn't just about the affair, it was about everything they had built together over years, trust, loyalty, and companionship, all crumbling in an instant under the weight of betrayal. "I'm sorry," Grace said softly, feeling tears prick at the corners of her eyes. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen." She glanced at Alex, who looked equally lost and conflicted. "Didn't mean for what to happen?" Tom pressed on, his voice rising slightly with frustration. "To kiss him? To betray our family?" The accusation hung heavily in the air between them as if it were a physical entity threatening to consume them whole. Grace took a deep breath and steadied herself. There was no turning back now. "I've felt invisible for so long," she confessed, her voice trembling slightly but steady enough to hold Tom's gaze. "You've been distant, we've been distant." The admission felt like unearthing buried truths long ignored. Tom's expression shifted again, This time a flicker of realization mingled with anger crossed his face. "So this is my fault," he shot back defensively. "No," Grace exclaimed, shaking her head vehemently. "That's not what I meant." She paused for a moment before continuing softly, "I just wanted something more." Alex remained silent beside her. He seemed caught between wanting to comfort Grace and fearing Tom's reaction even more than she did. "Something more?" Tom repeated incredulously. "And you think this is how you find it? By ruining our family?" The accusation stung deeply as Grace struggled against tears threatening to spill over. This wasn't how she envisioned their vacation. Their family trip intended for reconnecting had spiraled into chaos instead. "I never wanted to hurt anyone," she said quietly after a moment of silence stretched painfully between them. "Then why did you let it go this far?" Tom asked bitterly, crossing his arms tighter against his chest as if protecting himself from further emotional wounds. Grace opened her mouth to respond but hesitated. Words failed her once again as she grappled with feelings too complex to articulate fully in such a heated moment. Instead, she turned toward Alex briefly. Their eyes met, his filled with concern while hers sought reassurance from him amidst turmoil surrounding them both. Suddenly there was an unexpected knock at the door. 3 sharp raps that broke through their charged atmosphere like thunder rolling across stormy skies outside their window. "What now?" Tom muttered under his breath before moving toward the door with heavy steps. Grace exchanged glances with Alex again. An unspoken understanding passed between them as they braced themselves for whatever might come next. Tom swung open the door abruptly only for another surprise to greet him. One of Alex's friends stood there looking bewildered yet curious at what he had stumbled into, a situation clearly far from ordinary given expressions on all their faces. "What's going on?" asked Kyle innocently enough but oblivious to underlying tensions electrifying the room around him. Tom glanced back at Grace and then Alex before responding tersely, "Nothing you need to worry about." He attempted to shut the door quickly but Kyle wedged himself inside just in time, a determined look on his face suggesting he wouldn't be easily dismissed today either way. "Wait. Is this about your mom?" Kyle asked innocently enough while pointing towards Alex without realizing implications behind those words yet lingering danger hidden beneath surface-level interactions unfolding around them all too quickly now. Grace felt heat rush into her cheeks. The last thing they needed was someone else stumbling upon their mess or making assumptions based solely on appearances alone. "Can we talk later?" Alex implored Kyle quietly yet urgently while shooting glances towards Grace, who remained rooted where she stood still grappling with reality unfolding rapidly around them all now. "This isn't over," Tom warned grimly before turning away from doorway leaving behind unresolved tensions hanging thickly in air still heavy laden with unspoken truths waiting patiently beneath surface ready explode forth whenever opportunity arose next. As Kyle stepped inside fully now curiosity evident written across features still unaware gravity surrounding situation unfolding around him entirely. Grace couldn't shake sense impending doom looming overhead, their family fractured irreparably now caught within web-tangled emotions spiraling out control faster than anyone could possibly comprehend right then. The tension in the room was palpable as Kyle stood there, his eyes flicking between Grace and Alex. Confusion etched across his face. Grace's heart raced, a mix of fear and guilt flooding her senses. She wanted to scream, to explain everything, but words failed her. Alex's expression mirrored her own, shock mingled with a hint of panic. They were caught in a moment that felt both surreal and inevitable. The air thickened with unspoken truths, and Grace could almost hear the clock ticking down to an uncertain future. "What's going on here?" Kyle finally broke the silence, his voice low and steady yet laced with hurt. Grace opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out. The weight of their secret hung heavily between them. She glanced at Alex, whose gaze dropped to the floor as if he were trying to disappear into the carpet beneath him. "We were just," she started, but Kyle cut her off. Just what? It looks like you two were sharing something more than just a conversation. His tone shifted from confusion to accusation, each word cutting deeper than she anticipated. Grace felt the heat rise in her cheeks. We were talking, she managed to say, though it sounded weak even to her own ears. Talking? Kyle echoed incredulously. You call that talking? Alex shifted uncomfortably beside her, the reality of their situation settling in like a heavy fog. Grace wished for a moment that she could rewind time, erase the last few days filled with stolen glances and whispered secrets. Maybe we should sit down, Alex suggested quietly, trying to diffuse the tension that crackled in the air. Kyle shook his head vehemently. No. I want answers first. He stepped closer, his frustration palpable as he looked directly at Grace. What's going on between you two? A lump formed in Grace's throat as she struggled to find the right words. Her mind raced through all their moments together, the laughter shared over coffee, the late-night talks where vulnerability flowed freely, and how those innocent interactions had spiraled into something so complicated and painful. Nothing happened, she finally said, though it felt like a lie hanging in the air between them. It's just, we connected. Connected? Kyle scoffed bitterly. Is that what you call this? Because it looks like more than that from where I'm standing. Grace's heart sank further as she watched Kyle's expression shift from confusion to betrayal. The realization of how far they had strayed from their vows settled heavily on her shoulders. I didn't mean for it to happen, Alex chimed in defensively, his voice trembling slightly as he spoke up for himself for perhaps the first time in this mess. Kyle turned his attention toward him now, anger flashing across his features. You think that makes it any better? You're my son. How could you do this? At that moment, Grace felt torn between two worlds, her husband's pain and her stepson's vulnerability, and neither seemed willing to grant her peace or understanding. I never meant for any of this, Grace pleaded softly, feeling tears prick at her eyes as she looked at both men who had become so important yet so distant from each other now. You need to make a choice, Kyle said sharply after a long pause that felt like an eternity stretching before them all. This isn't just about you anymore. The weight of those words settled heavily on Grace's chest, they hung there like a dark cloud threatening rain on an already stormy day. What choice could she make? Could she really walk away from what had begun with Alex? But then again, could she bear losing Kyle? Maybe we should all take some time apart, Alex suggested hesitantly after another agonizing silence filled with tension and unresolved emotions. No. Kyle snapped back immediately before taking a deep breath as if calming himself down was paramount now amidst chaos surrounding them all. I can't believe this is happening, he murmured under his breath before looking back at Grace again with an intensity that made her stomach churn uneasily inside her. Do you love him? Kyle asked suddenly, his voice dropping low enough for only Grace to hear, but loud enough for it still echoing through every corner of their tangled lives together now laid bare before each other without pretense anymore. Grace hesitated too long. Silence wrapped around them tightly until finally breaking free again when Alex interjected quickly, this isn't about love. It was never meant to be. But it is, Kyle countered harshly without missing a beat while glaring daggers at both of them, his pain evident now more than ever before displayed openly between family ties ripped apart by choices made recklessly over time without consideration given towards consequences lurking nearby waiting patiently just outside view always ready strike when least expected most. I can't do this. Grace cried out suddenly feeling overwhelmed by everything surrounding them, emotions spiraling out control faster than anyone knew how to handle right then. She turned toward Alex whose eyes mirrored hers filled with uncertainty mixed regret, a reflection of choices made together dancing dangerously close edge cliff overlooking abyss waiting below swallowing whole anyone daring step forward without thought given first. Kyle's face softened slightly, seeing pain reflected back within both mother-son standing side by side despite circumstances tearing family apart, leaving nothing but remnants behind scattered everywhere around them now. Maybe we need space, time apart, he suggested, cautiously trying find middle ground amidst chaos enveloping everyone present, still holding on to hope somehow left remaining buried deep down inside hearts, longing connection lost somewhere along way throughout years spent together building life once shared, now shattered beyond repair. Grace nodded slowly, feeling exhaustion wash over body, completely drained emotionally after everything transpired within mere moments, unfolding rapidly before eyes, unable to comprehend fully yet grasping reality looming closer nearby, threatening consume entire existence altogether. As they sat there caught within swirling storm, emotions raging around them, each person lost within thoughts swirling endlessly without resolution, insight offered anywhere near, sight ahead waiting patiently, remain hidden beneath surface, still yearning desperately, seek solace found only within memories past, cherished deeply held close, heart forever etched forevermore. Grace's heart raced as she locked eyes with her husband, the shock of being caught paralyzing her. The room felt like it was closing in, the air thick with unspoken words and accusations. Alex stood frozen beside her, his expression a mix of fear and confusion. She wanted to scream, to explain, but the words tangled in her throat like a choking vine. "Tom," she finally managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. "I can explain." Tom's gaze flicked between them, his face a mask of disbelief. The betrayal hung heavy in the air, suffocating any hope of calm discourse. He took a step back, shaking his head as if trying to dispel the image before him. "You've got to be kidding me," he said, his voice low and trembling. Grace could see the hurt etched into his features, deep lines marking years of frustration and neglect. She had never intended for this moment to happen, never thought their lives would spiral into such chaos during what was supposed to be a family trip. "Let me explain," Grace pleaded again, desperation creeping into her tone. "It's not what it looks like." "Not what it looks like?" Tom echoed incredulously. "You're kissing my son. How is that not exactly what it looks like?" The weight of his words crashed over her, each syllable puncturing the fragile bubble they had created around themselves over these past few days. Memories of laughter shared with Alex flooded her mind, the stolen glances, the moments when their hands brushed against one another. Each memory now felt tainted by guilt and shame. "Dad," Alex finally spoke up, his voice shaking with uncertainty. "I didn't mean for this to happen." "Didn't mean for this to happen?" Tom shot back, anger flaring in his eyes. "You're an adult. You both made choices." Grace's heart sank deeper at the sight of Alex's face crumpling under Tom's harsh words. She wanted to reach out to him but felt rooted in place as if she were trapped in some sort of nightmare from which there was no escape. "I never wanted to hurt you," Grace said softly, turning back to Tom. "I've felt so alone for so long. I never meant for things to go this far." "Alone?" Tom spat out bitterly. "What about me? What about our marriage? You think I haven't noticed how distant you've been?" The truth hit hard. She had been so focused on her own feelings that she had neglected their shared life together. It was easier to blame him for their problems than confront her own shortcomings. "We can work through this," she urged him desperately, trying to grasp at any thread that might save them from unraveling completely. Tom shook his head again, disbelief morphing into something darker, disappointment mixed with rage simmering just below the surface. "Work through this? With my son? You think I can just forget what I saw?" The tension in the room crackled like static electricity as silence stretched between them, a silence heavy with betrayal and unresolved emotions swirling chaotically around them. "I need time," he finally said through gritted teeth before turning sharply on his heel and storming out of the room without another word. Grace stood frozen for a moment longer before collapsing onto the edge of the bed as if all strength had been drained from her body. She felt Alex sit down beside her but couldn't bring herself to look at him. Shame washed over her like icy water. "What do we do now?" he asked quietly after a long pause filled with uncertainty. "I don't know," Grace admitted softly, feeling lost in a labyrinth of choices and consequences spiraling beyond control. Their secret world had shattered into pieces around them, every shared moment now tainted by an impending fallout that loomed ominously overhead. The weight of reality pressed down on Grace's chest until it became hard to breathe. "I didn't want any of this," Alex murmured after another heavy silence passed between them. Neither did she, yet here they were, entangled in something neither could fully comprehend nor escape from easily now that it lay exposed before them both like an open wound festering under harsh light. After what felt like hours but was merely minutes ticked away on the clock hanging on the wall across from them, the ticking sound echoing painfully against their ears, Grace finally met Alex's gaze. "We need to talk about what happened," she said cautiously, dread coiling tightly within her gut as she spoke those words aloud. Words that could unravel everything further still if they weren't careful enough while navigating these treacherous waters ahead filled with jagged edges waiting patiently just beneath surface. "I know." His voice trembled slightly as he turned away from her gaze, nervously fidgeting with his hands resting awkwardly against his knees while staring blankly ahead, lost somewhere within thoughts swirling endlessly without resolution. Insight offered anywhere near sight ahead. Waiting patiently, remain hidden beneath surface, still yearning desperately, seek solace found only within memories past, cherished deeply held close, heart forever etched forevermore. Then came a knock at the door, a loud rapping sound breaking through their fragile cocoon of silence, a reminder that reality awaited just outside their door, ready to pounce upon unsuspecting prey, unaware, lurking nearby, threatening consume entire existence altogether. "Who is it?" Grace called out hesitantly, fearing who might be standing just beyond threshold awaiting entrance into chaos already unfolding inside room where secrets lay bare, exposed, raw, vulnerable, awaiting judgment, unrelenting, unforgiving. "It's Mom," came a familiar voice from outside, the sound sending another wave crashing through Grace's already frayed nerves, reminding her that life continued outside this moment, frozen forever within time, suspended indefinitely, hanging delicately upon precipice, ready tip over edge, plunged downward, spiraling toward inevitable conclusion no one wanted yet everyone feared most deeply.